Good evening everyone, my name is Usagi.
I'm Zunda.
Tonight, I'll be sharing some true Japanese scary stories.
What kind of scary story is waiting for us this time?
The first story is a short one, about a hunter's experience.
Even your short stories are plenty scary. Everyone, are you ready to shiver under your blankets?
I didn't prepare a blanket for you, but are you going to be okay?
What?
I'm a hunter. One day, after several days of coming back empty-handed, I grew desperate for a catch. Ignoring the warnings from my seniors, I ventured deep into the mountains, into a forbidden area. After climbing for hours, I reached the off-limits zone. The area was eerily silent, not even the sound of insects could be heard. As I carefully walked through the woods, I spotted what I thought was a monkey among the branches, but something was off. When I got closer, I realized it wasn't a monkey, it was a monkey's skin tied to a branch. Strangely, the skin was made in a way that a person could wear it. The inside was neatly tanned, and there were even laces around the edges. The size was about that of an average monkey. Who on earth would wear something like this? And in the middle of these deserted mountains. Just thinking about it sent a chill down my spine, and I hurried down the mountain. Since then, I've never gone near that place again.
Who would wear that skin?
I have no idea.
It's better to stay away from the mountains.
I'd rather not climb them in the first place, it's too tiring. The next story is called, The Cry in the Art Room.
Art rooms can be pretty creepy, right?
Really? I like them.
Because they're not tiring?
Zunda. I'm a middle school art teacher, and besides teaching, I also create my own oil paintings. Since my apartment is too small to work on large pieces, I usually stay after school to paint in the art room. I continued this routine even after transferring to a new school, working in a corner of the art room. One day, I noticed something strange. There were small handprints on the surface of my painting. Oil paintings take a long time to dry, sometimes up to a week. I thought maybe someone had touched it without me noticing, but I didn't pay much attention and just painted over the handprints. However, the next day, the handprints were back. And this time, they covered the entire surface of the painting. My paintings are quite large, so it didn't seem like just a prank. That day, as I was erasing the handprints and painting, I lost track of time, and soon it was 9, 10, 11 p.m., before I knew it, it was late at night. In the art room, where only the sound of my brush should have been heard, I began to hear what sounded like a baby's cry, or perhaps a cat's meow. I opened the window, but there was no sign of a cat, and of course, no baby could be here. I tried to ignore it and kept painting, but the sound seemed to be coming from inside the art room. I traced the sound, and it seemed to be coming from the electric kiln at the back of the art room. The kiln, which was used for pottery, was about the size of a large trash can. But it seemed to be broken or unused for a long time. When I opened the lid, it was full of crumpled paper, as if students had been using it as a trash can. Since I had just transferred to this school, I hadn't had time to clean it out and had left it as it was. As I cautiously approached the kiln, the crying suddenly stopped. Maybe a student had trapped a kitten inside. If some student had played such a prank, it would explain the handprints on my painting. Determined to find out, I pulled out the crumpled paper from inside the kiln. The sound of the paper rustling in the silent art room was anything but pleasant. I pulled out all the trash I could reach, but there was no sign of a cat. At the bottom of the kiln, there was a layer of dry sand. I reached into the sand, feeling around. My fingers touched something, so I pulled it out. It was a bone, likely from an animal. I was too scared to continue searching and fled from the art room. The next day, I reported the incident to the principal, who sternly told me, "We'll handle everything, but don't mention this to anyone." Later, I heard from other teachers that before I transferred, there had been a female art teacher who had become pregnant after an affair and left the school. She has been missing ever since. What were those small handprints and the baby's cries?
It sounds like the principal knows something.
It might be related to the former art teacher.
That was a creepy story.
The next story is called Kajiko.
What's Kajiko?
It's a Japanese term that means a child who rows a boat.
Oh, I see.
It's not a common word, and it seems to refer to children who were forced to work on fishing boats.
I have a bad feeling about this.
My hobby is fishing. Whether it's the sea, mountains, or rivers, I enjoy fishing in all kinds of places, but my favorite is going out on a boat to fish offshore. This is a story of something that happened to me a long time ago. As a long holiday was approaching, I was thrilled. I had organized a fishing trip with some friends during the break, and I was really looking forward to it. We planned to spend almost all our time fishing, eating the fish we caught while drinking sake. Just thinking about it made me excited. Finally, after work was over, the first day of the holiday arrived. The weather was perfect, so my two friends and I got into the car and headed to our accommodation. After soaking in the hot spring and having dinner, we prepared for fishing early the next morning. I had a good feeling that we would catch a lot of fish. I woke up to find it was still dark. But when I checked the time, it was already time to get up. Fishermen wake up early, after all. We packed our gear and left the inn before sunrise. The captain who would be driving the fishing boat that day was someone I had known for a long time. He was a veteran, well known locally, with extensive knowledge and experience of the sea that I trusted completely. After greeting the captain, we set off for the open sea. The night sea has a mystical atmosphere. Pitch black darkness. Without the boat's lights, you couldn't even see your own body clearly. If the moon is out, you can see somewhat, but that only makes you more aware of the vastness of nature surrounding you, which can be quite terrifying. By the time we started fishing, the sky was starting to brighten, and we were enjoying ourselves. The captain's recommended spots were all great, and we caught plenty of fish. But just as everyone had caught their fill, I noticed a sound. It was the sound of something creaking, faintly audible between the waves. At first, I thought it might be the sound of the boat, but if that were the case, we would have heard it all along. The sudden noise made my friends also curious, and they asked, what could that be? Suddenly, the captain said, "Sorry folks, but the tide seems to have changed, so we're done for today. My apologies." And with that, he started heading back to shore. It felt strange, but the captain's word was final. Well, there's always tomorrow, I thought, and we decided to enjoy some sightseeing. But even after returning to shore, I couldn't stop thinking about that sound. Why did the captain decide to go back when we were catching so much fish? Usually, the captain would be the one saying, "Let's keep fishing." I concluded that there must be some secret behind that sound. The next day, once again before dawn, we boarded the boat and headed out to sea. During the trip, I casually asked the captain, "What was that creaking sound yesterday?" The captain looked slightly troubled and replied, "Well, it's a signal to go back." I wanted to ask more, but we had reached our spot, so we started fishing again. The sea was very calm. But this time, we had trouble catching anything. Then, in the silence, the creaking sound started again. I tried to figure out where it was coming from, and I noticed something in the distance. It looked like a small wooden boat, with someone standing on it, rowing with a paddle. It seemed to be heading towards us, slowly but surely. "Captain, there's a rowboat coming." I informed the captain, who suddenly shouted, "Is that true?" He then asked, "How many people can you see rowing?" I answered that I saw one person. But my friend said he couldn't see anyone at all. The moment we gave our answers, the captain started the boat, making us almost fall over. "Sorry for the rough ride, but we're heading back to shore." The captain's tense demeanor made us all nervous. I wondered what could be going on, but then I heard the creaking sound again, mixed with the boat's engine noise. I looked behind the boat, and to my horror, the wooden boat was getting closer. A rowboat catching up to a motorboat is impossible. I stared at it, trying to make sense of it, and then I saw it. The one rowing the boat was a mummy. It was just skin and bones, clearly not alive, yet it was still moving, rowing the boat towards us. "Captain, it's getting closer," I cried out in fear, but the captain shouted, "Don't look at it." "What the hell is that thing?" My friend and I were stunned. And as the shore began to come into view, the boat that had been chasing us drifted away. When we got to shore, the captain said, "Tonight, you won't be staying at the inn, you need to stay at the shrine." He then took us to a shrine. When we arrived, the captain told what seemed to be the shrine's priest, "These folks have seen the Kajiko." As a result, we ended up spending the night at the shrine. The priest treated us very well, and the captain even gave us some fish as a gift. The innkeeper where we were staying also came to help out, and despite the strange experience, we even thought we were lucky to have such an unusual adventure. What exactly is a Kajiko? After we had finished our meal and settled down, we asked about what had happened. A long time ago. In this region by the sea, fishing was the main occupation, and it was common for entire families to go out to sea to make a living. At that time, schools weren't common, so children were valuable laborers. But with the increasing demand for fish and the shortage of workers, they needed to find labor from somewhere. The children who ended up being chosen were those who had been sold due to financial hardship or those who had no family to turn to. Unbelievable as it may seem now, there was a time in Japan when children were valuable laborers, often victims of human trafficking or forced labor. This didn't just happen in fishing, it was common in agriculture and other jobs too, though there are no official historical records of it. It was said to have been widespread across the country. Originally, Kajiko referred to the children in a household who rowed the boat, so the children who were brought in as laborers also became Kajiko. However, as time passed, their treatment became increasingly inhumane, and these children were seen as nothing more than labor. They worked from dawn till dusk, and if they tried to escape or resist, they were often killed after suffering brutal punishment. There is no official record of how many children became Kajiko and perished, so the truth remains unknown. Over time, stories began to emerge of people seeing the ghost of Kajiko at sea, just as we did. The number of Kajiko seen by someone varies, and the more they see, the higher the likelihood of their death in the near future. If someone sees 4 or more, they're said to die within a week for some reason. It's understood that the number of Kajiko seen is closely related to the social status of the observer. For example, if a person with many subordinates, like a company president, a celebrity, a village chief, or someone wealthy, sees a Kajiko, they are likely to die soon. I once heard of a president who saw countless Kajiko and fell off a cliff and died a few days later. In recent years, with the decline of inhumane labor practices, perhaps the ghosts have been able to find peace, as it's now rare to hear of someone seeing a Kajiko. Luckily, or unluckily, we were just regular company employees, so seeing a Kajiko had no impact on us. But to be safe, we spent the night at the shrine. That night, I woke up needing to go to the bathroom. As I walked down the creaking hallway, I couldn't help but think of the creaking sound of the Kajiko and felt a chill down my spine. I wanted to hurry back to my futon. As I was nervously using the bathroom, I heard the sound again. It sounded close, yet distant, but I could definitely hear it. Could the Kajiko have come for me? I froze in place, holding my breath and listening intently. The sound didn't stop, its eerie rhythm continuing, and I frantically considered what to do. Should I stay in the bathroom all night? Or should I make a run for it and seek help from the priest? Could the Kajiko take me to the afterlife? Sweating with fear, I decided I needed to leave the bathroom and seek help. I held my breath, moved cautiously to avoid making noise, and carefully opened the door to check outside. When I looked to the right, then to the left, there it was. A mummified figure, about the height of a child, was standing in the hallway. Its eyes and mouth were unnaturally large, black holes, making it seem almost like a prop. I wanted to scream out in terror, but I couldn't move a muscle, not even my voice would come out. I was paralyzed, standing there in a state of fear-induced paralysis. Neither the Kajiko nor I moved an inch, but as I stared into its black eyes, they seemed to grow larger, as if they were sucking me in. When I came to, I found myself in my futon. The priest was performing a ritual beside me, and when he noticed I was awake, he seemed relieved, saying, "I'm so glad you're alive." After that, we experienced no more strange incidents and returned home safely from our trip. We had to give up on fishing during the trip, but considering what happened, it couldn't be helped.
This is terrifying. Too terrifying.
It seems like the spirits of those children still linger in the sea. I definitely wouldn't want to experience something like that.
I'll make sure not to become a vengeful spirit myself.
But you're unemployed, aren't you?
Shh.
Alright, let's call it a day. Zunda, what did you think of the stories this time?
The first part was eerie, but the last story was the scariest. The descriptions were so vivid and real.
I'm glad you liked it.
I'm regretting not bringing a blanket now. I want to hear more of them.
Sure? I'll call you again when I have more scary stories to tell. Subscribe to the channel. That way, we can meet again in the next video.
See you later, alligator.